Welcome back to another episode of The Lofty Lenders Homebuyer Education, where we explore tips, tricks, and stories that can help you plan for your next home purchase. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a move-up buyer, an investor, or just looking to learn, we hope you gain a little bit of knowledge today. Today's topic is a question almost every buyer asks once their offer gets accepted. How long, Charlie, does it actually take to close on a home?
2 weeks. Feel like a
Well,
contractor.
you might hear 2 weeks. You might hear 30 days. You might hear 45 days. I got one the other day that said, well, VA loans take 60 days. That's just standard. Don't you know, Kyle? I was kind of baffled, but the real answer is it kind of depends.
Yeah, it's like everything else we say. There's really no standard. I mean, it can be different for every area. I mean, in Iowa, we can close quickly, but abstracts take a little longer sometimes just to find them and then get them updated. But I mean, 3 weeks is what we tend to tell people. That's a good, clean, quick closing. 30 days, pretty standard. You can go up longer. It's totally fine. We don't care. It's a lot of that's going to be what you want to negotiate. What's the seller want? What's the buyer want? And, meet in the middle. But 30 days, give or take, should be just fine.
Yep. One of the biggest surprises for home buyers is how much that actually goes on between the day your offer is accepted and the day you get the keys. And that's why I don't think our business is ever going to become an Amazon. I'm going to go on Amazon and I'm going to click buy and suddenly I'm going to have a house in a couple of days or next day delivery, right? I don't think that's happening.
Well,
Even some
even
of
on
these smaller
cash
homes.
deals. I mean,
Yeah.
even a cash deal, you've got to have certain steps go. I mean, based on some of the stuff we hear, like you got to convert that bag of cash into a cashier's check. That takes time too.
Yep. So the big question is, how long does it actually take to close on a home? And like Charlie said, most of the time, 30, 45 days, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. But if you think of the closing process like a relay race with several checkpoints, that kind of can help you understand, what all goes on, because there's really a lot more than just we wrote the offer, we've got it accepted, we can close now. Um, and, here's just a few of the milestones that you're going to have on your relay race. The first one is the loan application and that initial approval process. We're going to be doing some initial disclosures, getting those out to you. I'm going to be going through, what your payment goals are and things. If we haven't talked about that already, or if you've not spoke with your lender about that ahead of time, you're going to make sure you go over, okay, we got this house. Maybe it's a little over what we budgeted for. Maybe the property taxes are a little higher. But let's talk about how we're going to structure this to make it fit your lifestyle and your desires. But yeah, once you're under contract, your lender kind of finalizes your application and begins that process. The next leg of our relay race is going to be that home inspection. So you are going to work with your realtor. If you are doing a home inspection, most people are. I just ran across one again the other day that he's decided to waive the inspection. But most of the time you want to have an inspection done because you want to make sure that what you're buying is worth the money you're going to be spending on it, because that's a lot of money to throw out there for, potentially a lot of issues that could be coming down the road.
And just knowing what your honey-do list looks like. I mean, you've got those two things. Oops, I really need to be aware of this, and things that are just a great idea to put on that list that you'll tackle.
I think the number one reason that people have not moved forward on purchases over the last couple of years has been due to foundational issues that have been discovered on an inspection. Oftentimes when especially in a finished basement, you're in the basement, you're looking around, the basement looks nice. There's nothing wrong with it from what I can tell. And then you get a home inspector in there and they point out, well, the basement's actually bowed in and they've got, that drywall. It's kind of like the lipstick on the pig. It looks great, but it's still a pig behind the drywall there. It's not great.
Yeah. Well, and some stuff, like you said, with the drywall you can't see, or you just even have stuff piled, or it's a crawl space. You're not necessarily going to see that when you walk through it. So that's why you hire the professional. And a lot of times we got rosy glasses on. We're really excited to be in the house. You don't always nitpick enough. Sometimes maybe too much on the unimportant things. But the important things, you want that inspector to really give you some good peace of mind.
Yep. So the next leg of our relay now is that appraisal. So we're going to get that appraisal ordered as soon as we know that inspection has gone well, as soon as we know that you're moving forward on this process. Charlie and I differ a little bit on just what the timing of that looks like, but reality, it just comes down to communicating with you and making sure you understand how it's going to work and how we're going to get this taken care of. An appraisal, again, what's the difference between an appraisal and an inspection, Charlie?
And this is going to be your really big ticket. That inspection has got a lot of nitpicks. The appraiser is not really looking for that. Their job is making sure that that house is worth what both the buyer and seller are saying in that purchase agreement. So they're just justifying that the collateral is reasonable. And at the same time, they're not an inspector when it comes to the nitpicks. They're just making sure that the roof looks okay, the plumbing looks okay, water goes out and down like it's supposed to, lights turn on and off. They're really doing a high level overview look of it, not a detailed nuance like an inspector is doing for that home inspection that's done privately, not part of the loan process.
And I always tell people a home inspection is there to protect you. The appraisal is there to protect the lender to make sure that you're not
Exactly.
doing a transaction for a $300,000 house and then they drive out there and it's a little shack out there that's not even worth $100. So it's there to protect the lender for the most part. Next up, we've got the underwriting review. So we're going to get all of your information, the documents that we've collected up front, the potentially if the appraisal is already back, we might send that as well. But we're going to be getting all that stuff off to the underwriter to review your situation and make sure that they've given us the approval on your loan and that everything looks good, reviewing your income, your assets, all that kind of stuff.
And I think the biggest difference you'll see that, well, you can't see it. You've actually just got to try and pick up in the conversation when you speak with your lender or whoever you're working with, and the agent you're working with could help out. But a lot of lenders are just going to throw it up to the underwriting desk and say, is this good? We try not to do that. I mean, we're not underwriters. We don't get to wear that hat, but we definitely try to put that hat on. So when we go up, this is the area everybody's concerned about. We really send it up to where it's like, yep, we expect this to come back. And it's a checklist for us. There's not many times it's going to come back outside of that checklist that we had prepped ahead of time because we're going through it early. And that pre-approval really helps that process to take some of that stress out for us and for everybody else.
And I guess one thing that I didn't have on my list that I'd want to throw in there as well is that we do have to order that title. And Charlie mentioned it earlier. We have to have that abstract updated. And oftentimes, especially on a purchase, that abstract can take a little bit of time to get updated. So it's important that we have that updated. Underwriting can review that as well, and they will review that before that next leg of our relay race here, which is the final loan approval, or what we call the clear to close, or the CTC. Oftentimes, I'll text an underwriter or a realtor that I'm working with that we got the CTC, and I'm all excited. And then I'm like, well, I think they know what that means, but I better call and tell them I'm really, really happy that I think we're closing. I know we're closing. We're good.
There's a lot of acronyms and just abbreviations that the industry uses, but the CTC tends to get everybody in the know excited. Borrowers, we still try to say clear to close so we get that excitement on their side, but I think most of the agents, they like to see that.
And your final leg of the relay race is obviously closing day. And that's the final leg you get to do with us for this process. Not to say you won't talk to us ever again. Charlie and I pride ourselves in following up with people after you close to make sure, again, as we always say, we're not too worried about this house. We're worried about you and your family in the next house and making sure that we set your situation up so that you're in a great position. So whatever your goals are, you can meet those even after closing on, the largest purchase of your life.
Percent.
So, a good way to think about all this is like building a house of cards. Each piece has to be placed carefully in the right order. And if one gets delayed, like an appraisal, title issue, missing document that we've requested a couple of times and you've not been able to find, it could slow the process or it could even just cause a lot more anxiety. I just recently was helping a gentleman who he couldn't find a document and it was giving him so much anxiety. And it raises tensions, it raises tempers. It's one of those things that, we've been asking for it for 3 weeks, and I know it's difficult to find that document, but unfortunately, we're kind of stuck. We don't ask for documents just to ask for them. We try to find ways around asking for the documents, actually. We'd rather go another route if we can, if it's easier, so that you don't have to go looking for something that's really hard to find. But sometimes underwriters come back and they say it is what it is, or the guides require it. If the guidelines require it, so say for an FHA loan, we've got to do what FHA requires because of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act.
There's a lot of little details. I like what you said when we first started, that you and I do differ a little bit on what we do for an exact process. I think the biggest difference is we're just not waiting to the last minute. When it's appropriate, that sucker's getting ordered right away, or requested, or submitted, whatever the case may be. And so you can have slight differences amongst things, but we run into how many people we hear about the appraisal a week before closing isn't done yet. It's like, well, that's just unacceptable, because now everybody's got a problem because, like you said, that house of cards, that main base piece isn't there, the rest of it can't finish out. And it's important that everybody does their job.
And that's just it. So the good news is that when everyone works together, the lender, the realtor, the title company, the buyer, it all really can run pretty smooth and pretty
Yeah.
easily. And 99% of the time it does. We talk about some of the horror stories because that's the things that, really stick out in our mind because we make sure that everything goes nice and smooth. But every once in a while, there are things that are uncontrollable, right? So it's really important that you find a lender and a realtor that work together well. I think I talked to a lot of people about that. I understand that you might know a realtor, but if that realtor doesn't work well with the lenders, it can cause a bit of tension and it can make it a little bit harder. So really value our partners that we've got and really value the people we don't have yet. We always reach out. Charlie and I both take pride in reaching out to your realtor, even if we don't know them yet, to introduce ourselves. We want to create a team to help you have the best experience throughout this process. And I might not know the person, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that you have the best experience possible.
And we do that with the listing agent too. They don't have a whole lot of really effect on the buyer's side, but all of their actions do come into the buyer's side. So letting them know that we're available, or your insurance agent, or whoever. I mean, a lot of times we have financial advisors where they're liquidating money for a down payment. Talking to the financial advisor, making sure that stuff is just going to go smooth, and that way there's no he said, she said, or just something that gets a dropped ball and then you just regret it later. So yeah, the communication, and it's fun. I mean, really, buying a house is supposed to be very exciting, and it is. You just have to make sure we don't bring any more stress in than necessary. Then you get to enjoy that excitement.
So I've kind of cheated here today on the notes because I already kind of prepared these notes. I already have my numbers here. So I'm going to ask Charlie this question. I'm going to answer the question so that he can think about it. Charlie, I want to know, what is your shortest closing and what is your longest closing? I can guess what your shortest is, but I think your longest is going to be one to rack your brain on. For mine, my shortest was 10 days. It was an FHA transfer from another lender. The borrower called me and he felt like he was just not getting what he wanted and he was not getting clear communication. So he called me up, and on a Tuesday, we started the process. And by 2 weeks later, on that next Tuesday, we were able to close. 10 days is the fastest we can close on a loan anyways because of regulatory requirements with our disclosures and all that kind of stuff. It was amazing. I couldn't believe we got it done in 2 weeks. And I made some great relationships along the way throughout that process. I think on the long side, though, I think my maybe longest one, new builds always take a while, right? I think my longest, though, was only about a 9-month new build. And I have a feeling you've got a much longer one.
Well, let's start with the short, because the shorts are exciting. Hitting a 10-day is just, I don't know many loan officers that even ever have that. And so kudos. That's fun when we can do the savior files and pushing through that fast. I don't know if I've hit a 10-day. I think I hit one that was just under 2 weeks. We might have been ready quicker, same type of deal where stuff came in and transferred, but I don't think I've hit 10 days. Nice job by you.
Mine might have been 11, actually. I guess if I started on a Tuesday and then it went until 2 Tuesdays later, technically you got to count that day, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to count it. I'm going to say it's 10.
Now wait, we're talking disclosures went out to closing for longest?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Not counting a new build, because I've had a couple true customs, and those take a while. I mean, you're going to push a year. I think I had one that was a little over a year for a true custom. But I think I've actually had a divorce and problem with everything that happened in the divorce. I want to say that was pushing almost a year. So I don't think I've had any really longer than a year. Let's hope not. Those are not fun for the consumer or for us. And documents get old. But yeah, let's hope not.
Well, and I do think of, the first thing that came to mind for you is that you've had one for a couple of years, but I think honestly, what it comes down to is you had been working. There's a lot of people out there that you've been working on credit repair with for many, many years.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's, hey, Kyle, I've been working with this customer for the last 3 years where we finally got their credit score to the point that it'll work. They've got enough money saved up. They've got a steady job. We've been working on all these things. They're finally under contract. And so I think in my mind, I was thinking you had a longer one just because of the standpoint that you've been talking to them, working with them for so long. But I guess I did just close one that he reached out to us 6 years ago. So
Yeah.
I might be up there with you.
Well, and if it's a getting ready, so a refi getting ready or a purchase getting ready, or even just can't find the house, we've been setting records for how long someone has been in our system and not closed. And then once they finally do close, yeah, you hit a 6, I had a 5 just recently. Those make my eyes cross. I can't imagine looking at houses that long. Most of them have been purchases that they couldn't find a house. But yeah, a lot of especially the divorces where you've ruined credit from some things, or a bankruptcy that you can't do something for another year or two, and really just trying to hold hands, get that budget and credit in play. We're happy to do it. It just, sometimes you can't move the clock faster. You just got to let time pass.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is, like Charlie said, you can't move it faster. We can try, we can do everything we can, but there's just certain things that we've got to wait on other people that are included in the process.
Yeah.
Right now, appraisal turn times are fairly good because we're not in a really, really busy season. But I remember getting back to COVID days when you just looked outside and you saw people walking by that needed to refinance their house. And appraisals were taking 5, 6, 7 weeks to get done just simply because they were so backed up. They had to do 40, 50, 60 appraisals, going in to view properties and then also going home and doing the desk reports on all of those. That's a lot of work. And they were just hammering through those and they were so bombarded. Nowadays, it's not quite that bad. However, it's just like Murphy's Law says, you get really comfortable doing 10 a week. And then as soon as you get to 15 or 20, even though you did 60 a while ago, 10 a week have taken up your entire week. So getting to 15 is a lot harder. And so it does take a little bit more time from each of those appraisers to get those going and to get them kind of feeling like, oh, I can ramp back up. I can do this. It can take time on those appraisal turn times. And the same thing happens for title. It really can happen across the industry entirely.
Well, and we've seen a lot of that with insurance. It's gotten so hard that there's a lot more detail going into quotes versus before you had to have a roundabout age of the roof and a roundabout age of the mechanicals. It can take a good week to 10 days to get a solid insurance quote, not just a willy-nilly one in 24 hours. So the whole thing, all the technology is awesome, but it makes more information available, which means more information can be reviewed. It gets a little crazy.
Let's get to my favorite part of the episode, which is the actionable takeaways. So here are 3 things that you can do to try to keep your closing timeline on track as best as you can by providing us all the information necessary. So number 1, get pre-approved early. Start that mortgage process before you make an offer, before you go see a house. Make sure you understand your numbers ahead of time.
Yeah.
Number 2,
well, hang on. On that, don't just be told that you're pre-approved. We need everybody to know that pre-approved means you had to give up documents. That's not just someone says you're pre-approved after 10 minutes. I think that's one of the things we haven't focused on that well, is that consumer may say or get that comment from the lender saying you're pre-approved, but if you didn't give up documents, it's not true.
There goes the underwriting aspect you were just talking about of trying to put on that underwriter hat ahead of time. Number 2, submit your documents quickly. If your lender asks for a bank statement, a pay stub, explanations of addresses or whatever, they're asking for those things because they need them, not just because they're nice to have. We do get some people that push back and say, yeah, you probably don't need that. If I don't need it, I'm not going to ask for it. I can promise you that. I only ask for something if I need it. And if I can find another way to get it, I absolutely will, because I don't want to bother you throughout this process. I want to get this done and find easy ways to get everything done. But 3, avoid major financial changes. So we talk about this all the time, but don't change jobs. If you do, make sure you let us know. Give us a little heads up. That's kind of nice. Opening any new credit cards, making any new purchases. I had a string of 2 or 3 people in a row that decided they needed to buy a new car right before we started a home loan application. Those things can have a major impact. One guy, he had a $2,500 truck payment. And that one was a kind of a big, I think that might be the biggest one I've ever seen. It was over $120,000 for a truck. And it's the truck that he drives 50% of the time because he also gets a work truck provided. So I told him, I know you got the bed of your truck. Go ahead and get a mattress, stick that in the back. You might want to sleep in that because unfortunately that's where your house payment is going, is in that truck, not in the house.
Ouch.
So to summarize, most home purchases can take anywhere from 30 to 45 days, give or take. Timelines really depend on the property, the loan, and how quickly everyone completes their steps. The key to a smooth closing is preparation, communication, and working with the right team. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it valuable. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to the podcast for more exciting episodes. And as always, stay curious. We'll see you next week on The Lofty Lender.